Welcome back to the Fourten podcast. This time for real. We are live. We are here. We figured it out. Thank you for bearing with us with the technical difficulties. But as always, I'm your host. With me, is Noah. Noah, we'll get to you here just in a second. I just want to quickly remind everyone Alfred will be joining, so be the three of us today. But as you are here, if you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe, hit the like, comment, bell, all of the above, because this is the place to be. DMV Sports is the place. Noah, how you feeling today, buddy?
I'm great. As we got to speak a little bit earlier, I'm so excited for the matches. My own personal playing aspirations didn't go so well this week, but that doesn't mean I can't be excited for all the rest of this beautiful DMV footy we got on the week.
Yeah, that was your last game, right? For the tournament, right?
We got a game tonight at 7, and
Oh
the
yes, you do.
Alexander United is knocked out of the tournament, but we can still play spoiler. We can still affect things, and for the integrity of the team and ourselves, still going to go out and try to get the best result possible.
Right. And we're talking like people may have noticed or may have not noticed you were playing this week on Thursday, which we're gonna dive into that game here. But before we dive into that, I know I kind of got your take a little bit because of our technical difficulties that we didn't notice about, but we did notice now. Let's kind of regroup and talk about that February the 5th game, North Star versus Yings. You were kind of talking about it, but let's start over. Tell me, what was your initial take on the game?
Yeah. So as far as result, we were really surprised. We had Yins United pegged as the favorite. They are the longtime powerhouse in Northern Virginia. We had this game pegged to go something like the Aegean Hawks match. And to be fair, early in the match, Yins had the much better play. North Stars made some mistakes playing out of the back. They weren't great going through the midfield. Yins had tons of chances, but were not able to capitalize. And as so often is the case, if you don't punch in your chances earlier, you're going to see those chances go the other way. And that's what happened. North Stars made some huge subs. Coach Daniel Rashid did a great job changing things around, and adding his late additions. Chris Barnard, Mike Kim, and Abedina Nambo were three key pieces that came into the game and just absolutely changed the game. And once the first game in, two more followed in the second half. 3-0 win, a convincing win to put North Stars in a great position going into their final match. It knocked out Yins United, so Yins will depart, and it'll come down to North Stars Esperion on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Yins did not look like their usual self, right? Like they looked like I don't want to say a shell of themselves, but they weren't like that team we're familiar with, where it's really clean, it's really crisp. They had some silly mistakes and the passing. Honestly, obviously the weather probably had something to do with it, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's still like you when you think of Yings, you think of one of the top teams, right? So it was definitely a shock for me to see that. And North Star, man, they surprised me, man. They were playing so well.
Yeah, I picked them as a shocker upset. I got the match wrong. All respect to Aegean Hawks. Hey, you come at the king, you best not miss. And I was proven wrong. But hey, there was an upset. I just got which powerhouse that they were going to upset wrong, but they did get that upset win this week.
They're always one, right? There's always one in the sporting world. So hey, whether it was Yings, whether it's the Gene Hawks, you got it somehow.
Trying to redeem myself. I was going back and forth with the Hawks who were saying the disrespect. I was like, no. I was saying it was such a huge upset because of the respect. But yeah, I love it when teams prove me wrong. I love it when they say that they use this podcast, in the group chat or whatever to get the team fired up. Hey, as long as you're listening, prove me wrong, please.
Hey, we're just here. We're just here we're not, obviously, it's not just to get reactions, but it's just our thoughts, right? It's our opinions on what we think
Yeah,
is going to happen. If you prove us wrong, hey, more power to you.
love it.
But we appreciate you listening.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, it was upsetting. Obviously, North Star ends up winning 3-0. North Star is now in a position where they could potentially get into the next round. Obviously, they're going to play another game against Esperion. We're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. Yins, as you mentioned, is out of the tournament, and they have no more games. That was their final game of the tournament. So unfortunately, that was a tough way to go for them. But then the very next night, we got to stream another game on DMV Sports Media, and obviously. You were on the field, so you did not do the call for this game. Alfred actually handled the call. I'm hoping as we're talking to Alfred jumps in because I'd love to get his perspective on this game. But as a player, as the goalkeeper, I would love to hear your take about this game.
Yeah, obviously it was a tough one for myself and for Alexandria United, especially since it was one that was just Alexandria just needed a draw, or 3 points would have been great, but a draw would have sufficed. And they actually got the first goal, an early Jeffrey Owusu goal, saw Alexandria United on the front foot. But to Orange's credit, they responded really well, especially getting a goal at the tail end of the half. And then
Mhm.
at the halftime, I spoke to them afterwards. They sort of noticed where Alexandria was strong, noticed what we were doing well, and noticed where we were lacking, and we didn't have great number nine play. We didn't have a true number nine, and they saw that, and they saw all we were trying to do was just get in behind. We weren't trying to hold up, distribute to the wingers, in any kind of meaningful way. They closed down pretty much everything. Really made it tough for Alexandria to create chances, and then they did a great job of counterattacking, finding chances of their own. And I don't think we Alexandria responded well enough to the adversity once they found that go-ahead goal. Orange. It took a little while for them to get going, but they certainly got going in a strong way, and now they're in a great position to advance.
Yeah, I was watching this game, and the first half it was pretty. Both teams were had chances. Both teams were moving forward. Obviously, there was some mistakes on the possession side because possession was getting turned over a lot. But you on the second half, like the possession was just getting switched every 10 seconds. I think Alfred might have mentioned that, and it was just very sloppy. And then Orange got some good plays in that obviously ended up getting them the lead, but they looked tired. They
Yeah,
looked aghast every time the ball went out of play. I saw like 3 or 4 players just hunched over, and I was like, Alexandria United has to take advantage of that, but unfortunately, the play wasn't there this go. Also, Noah, I don't know about you, but it was driving me insane. It was the decision making, right? The decision making was a little short, and it wasn't just team. Sorry, it wasn't just Alexandria. It was also Orange, right? It was the decision making and the passing. The pass, like while you guys were so technically good, I mean, your midfield, the ball, the touches on the ball, everything, the dribbling was great, but the passing, it looked like they were just doing warm up passes where the pass was either too slow or just a few feet short, and it was driving me up a wall, Noah. I'm telling you.
yeah. And it was sad to see because Alexandria had a strong. We'll recap some of the Sunday games just in short form too. But there was a strong. I think Alexandria had a much stronger showing against Los Toros in that 2-1
Yes.
defeat. Los Toros, albeit Orange had one of their worst games against Los Toros, but Orange lost 6-1 to Toros, and Alexandria. They were in the game all the way through, if not for kind of a penalty kick, which was basically a mistake and a set piece. They could have won that game. They also had some chances that they didn't capitalize. So I think coming off that first game, Alexandria United has a lot of self-reflecting. We've got to look, but the better team did win in terms of Orange adapting to the game, only playing with they had 12 players, and we're still able to come out with the result. Can be no complaints from Alexandria and Orange. If they're able to get bodies, they could cause some upsets going forward, but that's always been a concern with them.
Yeah, I mean, Orange, like if you're doing this to a team in the quarterfinals, that's a you got to have a bigger roster. You have
Yeah.
to,
Oh yeah.
because I mean, if things stay as is and Orange moves forward, right? They're second place at Potomac A. That means they're playing first place in one of the role. I can't remember what division they're playing. They would be playing Christos. No,
Yeah.
Ristosi.
Verstosi.
That's
Pick your poison there. I mean, it's not.
goodness.
Yeah, and those kids can run. I mean, those kids can run, and I think they've got right now. They've got a little bit better of a game plan to exploit. Tired legs. I think that's going to be a tough matchup. But on the contrary, if Orange could just get four more players, at least on that caliber of what they had on the field,
Oh yeah.
completely different game. They obviously have they're a little bit of an older team, a little more experienced, mature. They're absolutely a team that could create a very interesting matchup for Ristosi. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, but it just had the roster has to be a little deeper. That would change the game for them. Honestly, it would literally change. I mean, and honestly, if I'm a player and I find out we're playing Rostosi, I would want to be there.
And it was, to be fair, a 9 p.m. game on a midweek. Those DC guys don't love to travel well. So,
Fair.
give them some benefit of the doubt. They got the result, basically playing what could be amounted to an away match, in unfavorable circumstances. Next time might
Terrible
be
weather.
terrible weather. Next time might be a different situation, especially a knockout quarterfinal round. So,
Hundred
um,
percent.
yeah, they'll be an interesting team. It is kind of an interesting situation though, where there could be a three-way tie for the top two spots. If World Class were to win tonight, it'll all come down to that. And then of course Los Toros and World Class still have to face off. I think Los Toros is a team that has a lot of integrity, and regardless, they'll try to come out and force a result. So um, I think Orange is probably more likely to go through, but it's with sports. It's why we watch the game, so you never know.
Yeah, that's an interesting cup. I mean, our interesting group right there, the cup. Because there's still so much up in the air. Most of the groups are kind of like pretty well defined.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's some that there's teams that this weekend will know. Like, well, obviously we'll know every group, but
yeah,
they they're playing each other. Like Steel Pulse is playing Patuxent. Um, Das Beer Hall is playing Bowley, so like we'll know the games. But uh, do you want to recap any Sunday game or any big reaction from the Sunday before we move on to the kind of
yeah.
the situation of what the cup is looking like?
Sure. I'm just going to go through the games one by one and just quick form. So Das
Yeah,
Bierhall, Christos. Christos had a resounding 5-0 victory, really cementing themselves. If it wasn't clear over the past, 27, 26 years since Christos was formed, Christos is for real. They're still for real. They haven't gone anywhere. So Christos right now, for me, tournament favorite. Ristosi certainly close behind. Los Toros, I still think is a strong candidate too. To be honest, they
that
took
was a bad showing though. That was a
yeah, that was a
bad
bad
showing.
showing against Alexandria, who, obviously the next match ended up really not making themselves look great. So Los Toros, even in a win, took a step back, I think, but they can easily get some territory back. And then outside of that, Pulse is a deep, like a dark horse, but right now Pulse not playing great. Um,
Their ego has
Foley's
to be hurting, right? That Verstosi had that 6-3 win over them on Sunday. Their ego has to be hurting. They have to
six
have
three
one.
twice in a row in the MDV Cup last year, a whole year ago. They had a chance to atone for the 6-3 loss 1 year ago, and you can't say it's a fluke because the exact same scoreline in the same situation almost. So, yeah,
That's crazy. I had people reaching out to me and be like, is Steel Pulse getting bad? I was like, no, Verstosi is just for real. Like
Ristosi is
last
for real.
year, last year they went through the gauntlet. No Nova, Steel Pulse, Christos, and they're not afraid to do it again. I mean, I'll be curious. I don't think we'll see a Christos Verstosi final, but we'll see them if they do move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. So aside from that, we talked about Steel Pulse, Ristosi, Bowlies. They blanked Team United. That was a big result. I think
yeah,
Bowlies is gonna, make a strong contention based on how they're playing. I think they're a little bit ahead. Beer Hall. I think we could see Bowlies in. I don't think this is the year we're gonna see Bowlies go all the way.
yeah.
As good as they are against those top Christos, even Ristosi, I think it's gonna be a tough matchup. Bowlies Toros could get interesting if that ends up being a matchup. Um, Bowley's Hawks too. But yeah, I think they're going to make a proud statement for themselves, but I don't think they're going to go all the way. Um, let's see, who else did we
But
miss?
we had Patuxent, Baltimore
Patuxent
Kickers. It was
and kickers 6-5
six.
for Patuxent.
What a
Yeah,
score
that was
line!
that was a big result for Patuxent to keep themselves very much alive. They have to. I mean, they're forcing Steel Pulse to come out and show themselves. And normally I would say I don't even need to watch this game. Steel Pulse all day, but just with all the shortcomings that Steel Pulse have faced recently, you just might see it on a cold day, on a cold day in Maryland.
It's
It
gonna be
could be.
cold too.
Yeah, it will be cold. We won't be streaming that one, unfortunately. No, we will be. Excuse me.
Yeah,
That's one of the ones we will be streaming. So tune in for that. Ristosi kickers, all respect. I don't see that one as much of a close game. But yeah, kickers prove me wrong. Unfortunately, we won't be streaming the Bowley's Beer Hall game. So Bowley's fans, sorry, but just wanted to announce that here because we initially thought we would be. But if they're making it to the quarterfinals, I have it
we'll
on good
definitely.
authority. We almost certainly will be streaming that game. So you just got to go out and support your bullies in person this week. And then of course we have North Stars Esperion, which did get tacked on. But that one wasn't announced initially. That's a crucial match. Winner basically goes in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an important one. And then we're gonna take an early stop on the day. No evening games past the 4 p.m. kickoff because we got that other football thing
Oh,
to
I
watch.
forgot that there was a Super Bowl
I know. I
this
don't
week.
even know if I'm gonna whatever. But yeah, people care about that. So yeah, we won't have anything conflicting with Super Bowl. Um, but yeah, those are the matches on this week.
So to just real quick to round out the score lines from Sunday, for on in Virginia, you had Iran beat World Class Premier 4-3. Los Toros beat Alexander United 2-1, as Noah mentioned. Yings and Esperion tied 3-3. Aegean
Yes.
Hawks and North Star was 4-1. That was the one.
Yeah,
No.
I got that one wrong. Hawks got themselves their number one seed heading into the knockout stage, and deservingly so. But I think Esperion Yins was another shocking one. But Yins apparently got a red card in that.
Yes.
Esperion, to their credit, took advantage. So we'll see if they can keep that momentum going into that North Stars game. But we'll get into those matchups shortly.
Yeah, as of this moment though, I kind of want to lay the land of the scene of what's going on with who's advancing, who's on the fence of advancing. So the teams that we know for sure, and we're going to start with the MDV Cup, and then we can talk about Norton. But the MDV Cup, we have Christos Ristosi and the Aegean Hawks already qualified for the quarterfinals. On the fence, though, it's Steel Pulse and Patuxent who are
Yes,
playing this weekend.
yes,
Bullies Das BRL who are playing this weekend,
yes.
and North Star versus Esperion who are also playing each other this weekend. So we have three matches on the MDV Cup that are uh, playoffs on the line or quarterfinals on the line. I said
Yeah.
playoffs. Uh, any reaction to that before I talk about Norton Cup real quick? Just the lay of the scene.
No, that pretty much summarizes it in very simple in three of the groups, win it in, so stay tuned in for that. The other group we already kind of laid out. It's a little more complicated. Los Toros and Orange, they're the likely candidates heading into World Class. Can make it interesting if they win out, but we'll touch on that with the upcoming matchups.
For sure, for sure. In Norton's Cup, it's a little different, right? There's no like clear out qualified, but they should Well, actually, there are some qualified. So Silver Spring United is 2-0, so they have 2 wins, 6 points, and only the one game in hand. The teams under them are 1-1, so they should get through. Whether it's placement is going to matter, it's either first or second place. Um, Other teams that are moving through is Etihad and Lions, AFC or ACFC, in Arona County for those that don't know,
Yeah,
and Solange. But ACFC and Solange, the placement is what's going to be determined this weekend. Those on the fence, though, right? You have DMV Stars and A3 Highlanders. They're not playing each other, right? They're not playing. DMZ is playing Blessed, and A3 is playing Silver Spring. So depending on how those games go, is how those teams will sit. And that's for Group A. For Group B, you have um, Lions and Etihad. They're going to move through. Doesn't matter if they lose. There's no way the other two teams get points, or doesn't matter. They're moving through. Group C, Moco 1776 and Chevrolet are on 1-1. So depending on who wins this weekend, because they're Moco's playing Blazers and Chevrolet is playing ACFC. So depending the results on those is who goes through. And then the very last one is Group D. As I mentioned, Solange is going depending on position that will be determined. But Starliners and Baltimore City are on the fence. The reason Baltimore City has no games because Street Footy has been excommunicated from the tournament for lovely activities.
Yeah.
So Baltimore City got the 3 points, but they're positive one goal differential, right? So Starliners and Baltimore City are tied on points, but Starliners are playing Solange. If Solange wins, it's down to goal differential. However that game ends is how it's going to be determined.
Yeah.
So that one's going to be interesting. I said a lot. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that I'm glad because I don't have as much familiarity with where we sit with the Morton Cup, so I'm glad you took over there. Yeah, that's an interesting situation in the group. With Street Footy, obviously getting kicked out. Baltimore City, they'll be waiting eagerly to see
Yeah.
that result for the Slancha game. But man, as a Morton Cup team, I don't know if Slancha is the team I want to be facing to dictate my fate, but to Starliner's credit, they can kind of assert themselves as a hey, we're one of the favorites in this tournament. If they win, or if they if they progress from that group, even in a close result with Slancha, they'll have proven themselves in my eyes and probably a lot of fans' eyes because that's one of our favorite teams of the tournament, Slancha.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So two random questions, right? One, would you rather be playing for your promotion or would you rather be in Baltimore City situation and waiting for a result?
Oh, 100% playing. I mean, I think Baltimore City will tell you it's a very uncomfortable position to be in to have to
100%.
depend on another team because you don't know, especially in amateur footy, what teams are going to do on any given day. All you can do is control yourself. I'll speak from experience. When you get eliminated because you didn't show up to play, yeah, it sucks and it hurts. But there is just this feeling of fairness in the universe. Like, we lost on Thursday. Who am I going to be mad at? It's us. It's us. You know what I mean? I
Right.
can't be frustrated, and I'm glad it was it was our own situation to have. So yeah, 100%. I think most teams would tell you, most competitors would tell you they'd rather control their own situation.
100%. And I think that group is the probably the group of death, right? With Solange, Starliners, and Baltimore City. But is it a little disappointing that Baltimore City is in the position that they're in? I feel like they right.
Yeah, I think especially since there was talk, we thought we might be seeing, them have put a team into MDV Cup, maybe because they didn't, maybe some of their premier players ended up sitting out, whatever the case. But there was going to be potentially two teams, a Morton Cup and an MDV Cup, and then I thought they're only doing one team. It's going to be a strong contender, and the best we've seen from Baltimore City, I think, yeah, would be. But it hasn't been their best results.
Right.
If they're able to get into the knockout round, maybe they pick up a little steam, a little momentum, and start to show us, the Baltimore City that we know and love.
Yeah. Texador in the chat talking about up the bullies. You guys
You
have a
guys have a
tough
tough
game this
game
week.
this weekend. They do. I mean, on paper, it looks like Bowley's is the team that has been playing better. Obviously, they got a more favorable result against Christos. They even had a better goal differential against Team United. But here comes experience. I mean, Das Beer Hall is a team with so much experience. They know how to play at this level. While I think Bowley's has a great shot at advancing, I'm not going to look at the score lines so much to dictate
Yeah.
how this game is going to go.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough game. We might as well talk about it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
one
let's
of the
get
games
into it.
we're gonna preview. That game's at 11. Wait, hold on. We'll come back to the Saturday night game because we're gonna talk about that. One, you're gonna be playing in it, and two, I think Alfred's doing the stream, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely have to talk about. We'll get back to that one, but let's talk about Das Beer Hall and Bowlies because this is quarterfinals on the line. The stage is set where Bowlies and Das Beer Hall are 1-1. However, the goal differential right now it's Das Beer Hall is a goal for, 5 goals against, and Bowlies is 3-3, right? So everything points to Bowlies being the team, right? But as you said, is this is not determined on paper, is not determined on screens, and is not determined on a podcast. It's determined on the field. And what are we thinking? How do who what does Bowlies need to do to win this game?
So, I just gave all these reasons why I think Das Beer Hall, they're not, don't look at the on paper. I'm still picking Bowlies because one, because they have the advantage that all they need to get is a draw, right? With a
Yes.
draw, they have the advantage going through. If it were the other way around, I think it could be tough because Das Beer Hall have to open themselves up in order to score goals. Um, and one of their strongest, attributes is their set pieces. Das Beer Hall have excellent set pieces, excellent corner kicks. Austin Hyde neutralizes a lot of that. He's a
Yeah.
goalkeeper with excellent range. He's tall. His feet get him under the ball quite well. Das Beer aren't just going to be able to pack the box and throw one right on top of the goalkeeper. They're going to have to find other ways in and around to the goal. That back line of Bowlies does a great job. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think it might even be a draw, but I think in the result, it's going to be Bowlies going through.
Yeah, you're 100% right with Das Beer Hall having to open themselves and really take it to Boldy's, right? Because I mean, there's no other way but a win for them.
Yeah.
There really isn't. So they have to take it to Boldy's. And I don't think Das Beer Hall is that type of team. I think they're a very controlled, paced, very organized team. And once you take them out of that element is where you see like the likes of Christos who pick them apart because of just stretching them out, which as you mentioned, you saw how talented the team was. You yourself saw how talented Christos was,
Yeah.
and Das Beer Hall just wasn't able to keep up. So I am worried about Das Beer Hall, but I will say this is exciting because this is another uh, SSL or Super Soccer League Division One Maryland conference matchup, right? So we're gonna get to see this all season long. These two teams playing each other, so I'm really excited. This is a preview for me and for those that are going to follow the league this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not to mention there's storylines abound. Where did Austin Hyde play before? He was the goalkeeper for Das Beer for many seasons.
Correct.
So much familiarity between these two sides. It's going to be a great rivalry in the making.
This is going to be a fun one. I do think Bullies is going to take it out because everything is sitting on their sides, right? Like everything, they just need to play. Obviously, they're not going to play for the tie, right? They're gonna go for the win because they're competitors. But realistically, they just need to tie. So
Yeah.
I think Bullies is gonna take it out. All right, let's go back to Saturday because we have a game we are going to watch tonight at 7 p.m. at Thomas Jefferson. If you're going in person, but if you're subscribed here, you'll catch it live here
Yes.
at 7 p.m. It's going to be Alexandria United versus World Class Premier. That's a tough. It's obviously the only thing you guys can do right now is play spoiler.
Yes. And
Um,
for that reason, I think that the initiative has to go to World Class Premier. They do have everything to play for. While I'd like to say teams, going to always show up and try their very best no matter what, it has to be in some of the players' back mind that hey, we just got eliminated, and so for that reason, I think World Class Premier have to be the favorites. But it's going to be a tight game. They themselves are coming off a tough result against Orange last Sunday. So it's one of those situations where a World Class Premier can control their own destiny, but it's a tough destiny to control.
Eddie in the chat saying that Bullies cannot overlook Das Beer Hall. We mentioned that. We mentioned that. It's
Absolutely.
gonna be
No.
it's gonna be a good game. But let me go back to Alexandria United versus World Class Premier. I think World Class Premier. This game is probably gonna determine if they move forward or not. Obviously, right on points and just morale, because
Yeah.
Alexandria United. I'm sure you guys are feeling it. You're down in the dumps because you got eliminated. Yeah, you got eliminated. That sounds so bad. My bad. No.
No, it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth, and it's a 2 day turnaround. Now, coming off of a match that just saw the team eliminated, that's tough for any club
Right.
to
It's tough. It's
mentally experience,
hundred
physically
percent.
experience. You're playing 2 90-minute matches within a short period.
100%. And so World Class Premier has to go for it because the tone they set in this game is going to determine the tone they set against Toros. And that's, I mean, no disrespect to Alexandria United, but I feel like Toros is the favorite of this group right now and
Yes.
probably in the beginning of the tournament. So you have to beat these 2 teams to move forward. If
Yeah.
not, you can't move forward. And I honestly, it sucks to see Alexandria United out, but I think they're probably one of the best teams there in this group, or it should have been, right? It just didn't show.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a tough task. It's not a walk in the park for world class Premier,
Yeah.
but they're a good
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, absolutely. But they can start to build that momentum heading into the Los Toros game with a result tonight. Maybe they see it as such, get the result, focus on the 3 points, and then only focus game by game. Yeah.
100%. Yep. 100%. Oh, actually, you know what? I just noticed the Christos Team United game has
Yeah,
been
Team United said we don't want the smoke. They said, nah, no, we're
Oh,
out.
snap. This game has been forfeited. It is
We
a
were predicting, we were like, this could get ugly
we
for
were talking about that. We were
multiple
talking about
reasons.
that in the stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Team United, they didn't score a single goal in the competition. They've been eliminated. We talked about, the mentality of getting eliminated and then having to play one more match against a strong team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is no stronger team. Yeah, it's tough to see any forfeits, but in a
It's
way, yeah,
it's
you
understandable. It's
understand. You
understandable. Yes.
understand the mindset, and maybe Christos will enjoy, I guess, having their Sunday off. I don't know whether they just wanted the minutes, but yeah, that's a 3-0 forfeit for Christos. They
Do you
go
think
through.
that's actually a good question? Do you think that hurts Christos? Because now it's one last game that they get to work out any kinks. I mean,
Yeah, but
obviously
not
the
in
team
not in
is
any
really good.
meaningful. Christos is going to be Chris. I think, yeah, yes, but can they go and organize a practice or a scrimmage if they want to? Sure. I think Christos is the type of team that they could take a week off and they're still the same Christos the next week.
It's hilarious. It's like they said, no, we don't. We're good, Christos. You have 3 points.
We're
Peace
out.
out. Enjoy your Sunday. Go do something.
Yeah. Yep.
Too funny. I'm sorry, Team United. It just caught my attention. I was looking at the schedule. All right, let's go back to 11 in the morning. The other game, obviously, we talked about Daspera Hall versus Bowleys, but the other game that's going to be happening at 11, which will be streamed on the channel, it's going to be Steel Pulse versus Patuxent. If you're going to be there, it's Blendare field number 1. But if you're going to catch it live and stay out of the weather, it's going to be streamed here. It's going to be streamed here. This obviously quarterfinals on the line for both teams. Whoever wins this game is going to move forward. Obviously, Steel Pulse has a 6-6 goal differential, whereas Patuxent has a 7-10 goal differential, favoring Steel Pulse a little bit more. But I don't think either of these teams are going to play for the tie,
No,
especially not.
it's look at the score lines coming off from both of the teams. A 6-5 win for Patuxent and a 6-3 loss for Steel Pulse. I think we're gonna get goals. This is two teams that just go the NBA All-Star route and say, defense, what defense? And then you see some great things offensively. So yeah, I think we're gonna see the over/under for this game in Vegas is off the charts. So we're gonna see a top game.
Oh, that would have been this would have been a fun one to bet on, definitely for sure. I mean, I'm hoping to see Steel Pulse's A team, right? Or doesn't even have to be their A team. Just a better attitude of Steel Pulse, and I'm hoping to see Patuxent really bring it because that first game for Patuxent was not as a convincing game for me, and then obviously the game against Baltimore Kickers was a lot better for Patuxent, but they still need to bring it just a little bit more against a Steel Pulse. And that's what I'm thinking.
Agreed.
Who are you picking to win this game though?
It's got to be Steel Pulse for me. I mean, yes, Steel Pulse has experienced the issues that they've had, and Patuxent, maybe gained a step, but Steel Pulse, still Steel Pulse. I haven't. They still had incredible players against Ristosi, and they had elements of that game that they controlled and looked the better. So for now, yeah, Steel Pulse. I think it's not even a conversation most years. It's just a little bit more of a conversation this type of matchup, but it's still in Steel Pulse's court.
Yeah, it's really hard to go against Steel Pulse, right? Like knowing who Steel Pulse is and who they're willing to bring,
Yeah,
or who they can bring, I should say, right? Because they have that roster that they can really pull some gems out of. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to say Steel Pulse too. I really want to see a shocker though. So Patuxent, come on.
yeah. Duxon, if
I
you're
lo-
watching, use this as your motivation. We're picking against you.
I really want to see some tournament favorites get crashed out. I know I'm just adding fire to the flames, but I think it's fun, right? And this is what tournaments are about. So there you have a golden opportunity, Patuxin, to really upset the balance here.
And I hope I'm upsetting some Steel Pulse, players, people. I want to see a fire lit under Steel Pulse and
Right.
change it back around. I'm sure they're not loving the predictions and the disparaging predictions, but show us wrong. I want to see the Steel Pulse evolve. So bring it back, guys. Bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, like I feel like like this game. Obviously, Ristosi did bring a little of that fire out of them, but like the game before that, I felt like I was just watching Cruise Control Steel Pulse, right? Like it was not, it was not very dynamic from them. And obviously, no disrespect to the kickers because they did give them a fight, but it was just still cruise control. I think I never saw them come out of like the third gear, unlike Ristosi's where they really had to bring it,
Oh
but
yeah.
just Ristosi's had more in them. Um, all right, and then the last game of the weekend, really, it all these Virginia games getting knocked out on on the weekday really shortened the weekend. But the last game of the weekend is going to be North Stars versus Asperion, which will be streamed here. But if you're going to be in person, it's going to be Ken Lawrence Park. But you might want to watch it here so then you can get ready for the Super Bowl if you like that sport. I don't know.
Yeah. Just watch it on the channel. Make yourself known in the chat. We're gonna have fun. I'll be there on the game, and it's gonna be a fun one. I mean, this is another one. Lots of players who have played for both sides. You know, um, so there's some familiarity, and they say familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes, these sides matched up actually in the Summer Copa, the Silver Copa over the summer, and the game went all the way to penalties. North Stars advanced through that game and advanced onto an elimination round where they got knocked out by Baltimore City over the summer. But of course, both sides will remember it, and it's another situation where it's win and in for either side. Of course,
Yep.
North Stars a draw would see them through as well, so maybe that gives them the benefit. Do you want to pick this one first?
You know what? I'm gonna go North Stars because I feel like they're in let's call it like a honeymoon phase with their victory they just had. I think they're just flying right now because I mean you beat Yings United very convincingly. You're in a good position. A draw can see you through. They're sitting in a perfect position to go through, and I think Experian is going to push them. I think it's going to be a fun game. Very probably. I'm actually predicting a pretty high scoring game. I'm thinking like 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2 sounds right. I'm actually going to go 3-1. I think North Stars, they have every reason to bring all of their firepower from the giddy up and to get the
Yeah.
job done. And hey, they're live on. Sometimes that even incentivizes a little bit better in terms of showing up and so yeah, I think Esperion they're a solid squad, and I think they'll make it difficult. But I think North Stars at their best is going to be a tough task.
So the Norton Cup obviously is happening. I'm just gonna run through the games, and you tell me if there's a game you wanna spotlight. Actually, I'm gonna ask you which one do you think is the game of the weekend. So, on on they're all gonna be in Troy Park and Glendale Park and Long Reach, right? So it's a
Yeah,
mix. You have 3 11 o'clock games. You have ACFC versus Chevrolet at Troy Park field number 4. Troy Park is huge, by the way. Uh, you have
very
Glendale
exciting.
Park, field number 2. That's where A3 Highlanders versus Silver Springs United at 11. Obviously, the other 11 o'clock game is going to be Etihad versus Lions at Long Reach. So those are the 3 11 o'clock games. Already at 11 o'clock, we'll know certain certain quarterfinal positions. Then we have the 1 o'clock games, which are Blendare Park field number 2, which is going to be Daywalkers versus Banfield. The other 1 o'clock game is going to be at Long Reach Bless versus DMV Stars. And then the final 2 games are going to be Starliners versus Solange at 3 at Blendare Park field number 2. And the other 3 o'clock game is Moco 1776 versus Blazers at Troy Park, field number 4. And that will wrap it up because Baltimore City and Street Footy it was a forfeit to, well, forced forfeit to Baltimore City the points go.
Actually, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a forfeit. I
It
think that
wasn't.
Street Footy suffered some suspension, some sort of repercussions for their conduct in the game, and voluntarily withdrew from the. I don't think they
Oh
actually
wow,
were forced out. I think they grabbed their marbles and left
they
because they
didn't want to
weren't
play.
allowed to yell at the referees or something. I
They
don't
didn't
know.
want to play. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
We retry. We'll move on. We'll move on. We'll move on. I don't
Always
want to
the
be. I
politician.
don't want
Yeah,
to. I don't want to. Beat the dead horse. Uh, what is your game of the weekend for the Norton Cup?
has to be Slancha Starliners. I mean, that's should be where all the eyes are. I think that's where. I mean, there's lots of talented teams. Maybe a second place contender would be that ACFC Chevrolet that's turned into a little bit of a rivalry match. That's another one to watch out for. But just maybe it's my familiarity with Slancha and I've been eyeing up the Starliners team to see if they're for real. This will be the test for that.
You know what? Like, so I'm gonna have them flipped. I'm gonna have them flipped just because I want to be different, right?
Yeah.
I think that A3 versus Silver Spring. Silver Spring isn't that the same Silver Spring as UPSO? Um,
No. No.
okay, never mind.
Or at least they haven't in the past, unless if they just announced. I don't know, but
Oh
no,
no,
they, I
I'm
think
thinking Laurel. Never mind. Never mind. I was thinking Laurel. Ignore me. But I think this Silver Springs Maryland Majors. But I think Silver Spring is they're sitting at the first place in that group. A3 is essentially playing for their buy-in or their position into the quarterfinals. So they have to go at this team that's sitting in number one and win, which is always a recipe for a very fun game to watch. And unfortunately, we won't be able to stream that one, or we aren't going to be streaming that one. But it would have been one to watch, or if you can go in person, check it out. But then closely followed by the Starlines versus Solange. But that wraps it up for this weekend. I mean, after this weekend, we'll know who's in the quarterfinals, who's going to be playing who, and I'm excited for the quarterfinals.
yeah, likewise. I think we're gonna see a lot more teams contracting us, to get the game streamed. So that'll be for your viewing pleasure at home. Definitely, if you're a team out there and you're thinking about it, hit us up. We'd love to work with you. This is a great opportunity to, get some of your team, your games on, get, grow some exposure for your fan base. So contact us.
For sure. And if you are a fan and you are watching this podcast and you're enjoying it and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
We will be streaming our podcast. We will be streaming the games. This weekend is going to be super action packed. So make sure you go to the list of the games that will be aired live this weekend. Hit the noti bell so you can stay notified for when those games go live. We will love to see you in the chat. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Noah, it's been a pleasure. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care.